Alright, so I love the Borderlands series. It's something that I've even followed since before the release of the initial game because the premise alone is great. And I've enjoyed every game in the main series. I haven't played new tales from the Borderlands yet, but the series has an underlying problem. A crazy problem. And I mean that literally. The game has a problem with everyone just being insane. Go back to Borderlands 1, for example. Yeah, the game is filled with some absolutely insane people, but it works because there's a good explanation behind them being crazy. The craziness is implied to be unique to Pandora, specifically people who have been on Pandora for very long lengths of time. Part of this is because most of the population were prisoners that Dahl used for labor, but then abandoned, which, sure, that explains the bandit groups to some extent, but Tannis's logs imply that something about Pandora drove her mad. Presumably something related to the vault. Borderlands 2 largely kept up with this idea, but it was also where the idea started to unravel. You know, for example, Handsome Jack was insane, but not from Pandora. And the pre-sequel explains the reason why Jack is crazy, and it is actually for a good reason, so it gets a pass. But then the game raises more questions with how crazy people are on Elpis, including people who have only been there for a short time, like the Lost Legion. Then there's the heroes from the first game. Yeah, they've been on Pandora for a little bit, but not nearly as long as the people who are starting to go mad from it. But then look at Sledge with the slabs and Lilith with that whole bandit group that worshipped her and she was just kind of cool with them, like making human sacrifices and all that. You know, that's pretty crazy. However, I suppose you could argue that the original Vault Hunters have been exposed to a lot more than most, especially, you know, when it comes to the Vault. And then going back to Tannis, who is more crazy in the second, but it was also clear that she was becoming increasingly unhinged the longer she stayed on Pandora. I do think it happened a little quicker than maybe it should have, but that's not too important. What is important is there's a lack of really any sane people after the first game. The crazy people in Borderlands 1 really stand out because of the relatively sane people that were just trying to survive. You know, like Scooter and Crazy Earl were standouts in Borderlands 1. But in contrast to where the series has gone, like Scooter in particular would be one of the more sane characters. And then the point where I really started to notice this problem was with the DLC for Borderlands 2. Specifically, Mr. Torgue's DLC. Like really, the Torgue company makes very little sense in general. Mr. Torgue is possibly the most insane character in the game, but he's not from Pandora. So the whole vault explanation doesn't really make sense there. Not only that, but the whole Torgue board of directors are unhinged as well. And sure, sometimes people are just crazy, but like when everyone's crazy for a specific reason, and then someone new shows up that's also crazy, yet doesn't fit the criteria for that specific reason, it comes off uncreative, lazy even. And then one last character from Borderlands 2 that I need to mention is Krieg, and his backstory actually further explains the existence of the iconic Psychos, the most insane of the bandits. They were driven crazy from Hyperion experiments, and you know, potentially experiments from other corporations as well. All of the different corporations had a past of doing stuff like that, but it shows that the extreme level of craziness that the Psychos have isn't from simply being on Pandora. Then there's Tales from the Borderlands. People are relatively sane on Pandora in this game. You know, there might be a little more unhinged up on Helios than you'd think for what is basically a large office space. But despite the people from Helios being about on the same level as the people from Pandora, they are all pretty grounded in reality. You know, simple things like being concerned about getting hurt. And of course, there are contrasting exceptions like Shade, but it works when not everyone is insane. You know, going back to the whole deal with Borderlands 1. But then Borderlands 3 kind of just throws that all out the window without explanation. Everyone in the entire universe is unhinged for no reason, and they always were. Yeah, the Calypsos are sending their insane COV followers to all of these other planets that you go to, but like, why are the citizens of Promethea already crazy? I mean, I guess there is a vault on Promethea. There's, I think, a vault on all the planets you go to in Borderlands 3, so maybe that's part of the explanation. But then why are the Maliwan soldiers and leadership so crazy before they go to these planets? Why were the Jacobs all crazy going back generations? Why was Typhon always crazy? And how did Vaughn and Reese get so crazy so fast? So the Guns, Love, and Tentacles DLC for Borderlands 3 does give us a more definitive answer on vaults and their monsters driving people mad. Yeah, they do. And yeah, all of the planets you go to in Borderlands 3 are vaults, but is every planet in the galaxy a vault? Does this crazy aura extend beyond the planets and into space? Because there's a lot of people who simply aren't ever on these planets, but have the same kind of madness that gets progressively worse with each entry into the series. And so yeah, there are good potential explanations for it, but they don't actually seem to be getting addressed. It seems like the writers have just decided that this is a crazy universe, just because. And it's getting more and more crazy because they have to top the last game, I guess. I don't know. This creates a tonal problem with the series, Borderlands 3 in particular. It's hard to care about anything when no one is taking anything seriously. The story has become one big joke, but it doesn't even have a punchline. It's like the I'm so random of writing.
We kidnapped your scientist. If you want to see her alive, it's not gonna happen. Yeah, 'cause you eat butts.
Not that there isn't any good writing in Borderlands 3, that's not what I mean. Being caught between a corporate war between Maliwan and Atlas, having a siren's powers be stealing others' powers, and the whole deal with Typhon, you know, there were a lot of good ideas in Borderlands 3, but the whole package often felt meaningless. The strongest emotion the story ever elicited was frustration with Ava and cringe at, well, a lot of things. Then there's New Tales from the Borderlands and Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Like I said, I haven't played or even watched through New Tales yet. I plan on probably doing that soon, but I've only heard bad things about it, so I've kind of been putting it off. And then Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is a game within a game from the mind of someone who is legitimately crazy. So yeah, it's going to be justifiably crazy. Though it actually puts into perspective how crazy the Borderlands universe has become, as it's really not much more crazy than Borderlands 3. It also, I did not really care for the story in Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. It was largely pretty uninteresting. Maybe it's just the feeling the whole time that it's just a game within a game just kind of makes it seem less important, I guess. I don't know. The Borderlands movie recently had its first trailer, and well, I have a lot of questions for it that go beyond this one issue. And I have a feeling that Borderlands 4 is closer than most of us realize, and that leaves me concerned as there's been no indication that the series is going to rectify or even justify its plot decisions. And as much as I enjoy the gameplay that the series brings, I also really enjoyed the plot and world building before Borderlands 3. All I can do is hope that Borderlands 4 brings back some sanity to the series because, well, from what I've seen of the movie trailer, I doubt it's going to. Not that the Borderlands movie can't be entertaining, we'll have to wait and see about that, but yeah. So that's Borderlands' crazy problem. What do you think? Do you agree with me on this, or do you think it's not a big deal? Or do you maybe even think it's a good thing? Also, should I do more videos on Borderlands? It's a series that I could probably talk endlessly on, and I've been playing it again a bit recently, so if people are interested in that, let me know. But thanks for watching, hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe if you want to see more. See you next time.
I'm so random.